Yeah, good evening. These two ladies, we know each other since 40 years. It's really funny being here after 40 years. We met first time in 1984, and I start with my introduction. There are a lot of changes. I hope I find the right sentences. The story of my book, and the story of my book is also a historical and cultural view of India. The book begins from a Western colonial perspective through explorers from Bavaria, the brothers Hermann, Adolf, and Robert Schlag and White. The mission of the brothers was to carry out geographical and geomagnetic research from the East India Company for the East India Company in the mid of the 19th century. 40 years ago, in 1984, we made a 45-minute documentary about the German explorers for German television. This was the beginning, and in those days we met. The other narrative of this, the other narrative is set in the middle of the last century, and it is based on classical Indology, which was significantly expanded by Professor Günther Sontheimer into folk religion and ethnology. He was professor of Indian religion and philosophy. Sontheimer was also deeply interested in the history and culture of Maharashtra and the Marathi language, which he spoke fluently. Along with the oral tradition he documented, he used Marathi literature to complement his research on folk religion and its traditions. Through Sontheimer, I came to know writers like Arun Kolatka, Venkatesh Madgulkar, and Dilip Chitre, the poet, filmmaker, and painter. Starting with a film about German explorers in 1984, and thus entering the territory of Sontheimer's fieldwork for the first time, I became more and more lost in a strange and fascinating world and felt a great need to deepen my personal experience as cinematographer and photographer by learning from him to understand the cosmos of his lifelong exploration. And so Maharashtra became more and more the center of my work as a documentary filmmaker. In 1986, with Sontheimer's help, we made a film portrait of the shepherds of the Hatkadangas. This was followed in 1988 by Vari, an Indian pilgrimage about one of the largest pilgrimages in India. King Kanduba's hunting expedition followed in 1990. This film was particularly important to Sontheimer as he had spent so many years researching the Kanduba cult and in around the small town of Jesuri. On the day the film was to be screened for approval at the Film Lab in June 1992, I received a phone call with the news of my friend's death. He had died of a massive heart attack in Heidelberg. This happened on the day of the New Moon Festival, Somati Amavasya in Jesuri. The day of the new moon on Monday. The shepherd, Sakarem Lakade, Sontheimer's main informant on the culture and custom of his tribe, the Hatkadangas, whom Sontheimer called his brother, commented on our friend's death when I met him in his village a few weeks later. This year he could not come. He left his body in Germany. He always attended the Somati festival in Jesuri. He never missed it. Meeting Sontheimer had a great impact on my life and has been with me for decades. Otherwise, I would hardly be here today. Much of the content of my work with Sontheimer has now disappeared, such as the oral tradition. I think we all experience that progress can be merciless. We now live in a digital age, and our lives have become so complicated that we forget where we come from. The story in my book is from an analog time. My travels to South Asia, including Nepal, for my film and photography work took place between 1976 and 2009. I mean, this photograph, it was always very important for us to come back and even bring the films back, and we showed our films in Jesuri at the marketplaces with a 16mm projector, and so it was always a big exchange. For 4 decades, my trips to India, to Bombay, now Mumbai, Pune, Jejuri, and other places in the state of Maharashtra have always been journeys to meet wonderful people. Many protagonists and friends from my time in India have since passed away. Günther Sontheimer taught for many years at the South Asia Institute of the University of Heidelberg. Our cinematic collaboration focused on his research on the pastoral tribes of the Deccan Plateau and the Khandoba cult. It was very important for him to visualize his research for his students. He himself documented his work through photography and Super 8 film. He was well aware of how much the content of his research was subject to social change and threatened with disappearance. If you are interested, you can find his cinematic legacy and our films together on Vimeo.com under my name, along with the film about Mumbai for German television and a portrait of Sontheimer and a portrait of Chitre focusing on Saint Tukaram. Sontheimer died much too early in 1992 at the age of 58. I made the film about him and my book many years after his death. The Indologist and colleague of Sontheimer, Anne Feldhaus, and I brought our friend's ashes in an urn to India. After Sontheimer's funeral in Jejuri, Dilip Chitre and his wife accompanied me to Mumbai airport. We talked about Dilip's poet friend Namdeo Dasal, and I mentioned a passage about Dasal in V.A.'s Napal's book, India, A Million Mutinies Now. Dilip strongly disagreed with what Napal had written about his friend. Dilip and Viju insisted that I meet Namdeo and his wife, Malika, that very day. Of course, this was also a trick to motivate me to continue working in India. This trip to Mumbai and the evening with Namdeo and Malika opened the door to new adventures. Working with Chitre and Dasal took me into the depth of the mega city of Mumbai. Chitre and Dasal were connected through their poetry, and both were human rights activists. Chitre as an intellectual whose political statements were heard and respected by the Maharashtrian public. Dasal was an outlaw and Dalit whose poetry had earned him the highest place of honor in Indian literature. I was able to put Chitre and Dasal in touch with the German publisher. Some of Dilip's books have been published in German. Together with Chitre and Dasal, A1 Verlag in Munich produced my book Bombay Mumbai, Images of a Megacity. And we made a documentary for German television in the megacity. It was a very productive friendship. Sontheimer introduced me to the cosmos of pastoral peoples and their folk gods, and seemingly archaic rituals and festivals whose myths are passed down orally from generation to generation. While Sontheimer hated the juggernaut of Mumbai and always avoided it, Chitre wanted to take me there. I think he wanted me to complete my view of Maharashtra, to de-romanticize it. Of course, I know how much this cosmos has changed politically, culturally in the recent decades. Perhaps my book and my films are a contribution against forgetting. In an interview in 1984, an Indian scholar once said to me, "You people in the West always look forward in the direction of the train. We usually sit backwards in the train of life and see exactly where we have come from." I think this backwards view has now been reversed in India. Here too, the train to the future is mostly one way. In this respect, my book is perhaps that of a romantic. I hope that the films I was able to make in India will remain timeless because they tell of a great cultural heritage. By the way, they were acquired by the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts in the 19th. And my book, it is a book of memories that fills my life with longing. Thank you.
Thank you, Henning. We're now going to transition to a deeper exploration of the book Once Upon a Time in India. So I'm going to ask Henning and Vijaya to please take their seats, and I'm meanwhile also going to introduce our chair for the session. She is a remarkable director, producer, and documentarian whose storytelling extends beyond the stage and the screen. She has brought a diverse range of narratives to life, from Mumbai's rickshaw drivers to the traditions of Lavani performers. Please join me in welcoming our chair for this discussion, Savitri Medhatul. Over to you, Savitri.
We have all.
Everybody wants
one for each.
Okay.
Thank you, all of you, for coming here for the book launch. As you ended your presentation on saying sitting in the train with a back view,
Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
I think that's a very interesting way to start our conversation too. The other day we were discussing that what was it for you the very first time to come in India and go to rather rural India and talk with and meet people, look and be introduced to a culture which was completely new for you, coming from Germany. And you were giving me some really nice stories, and I was hoping that we would start our conversations with those stories of maybe a bit of a cultural shock, and how did you sort of...
I mean, the first cultural shock was for me in the 70s when I went to Nepal with a cinematographer. I was his assistant, and we did 4 documentaries about religious festival in Nepal. And I remember the night when we arrived in Delhi, and I think it was in 76, and we left the airport. I really wanted to go back because it was so scary. So many people were rounding there. And the opposite happens today. The last Sunday when we arrived in Mumbai, there was everything under control, extremely under control, meanwhile. But this was the first time when I really got in touch with India. Mm-hmm. And in those days, I was not so sure whether I wanted to come back or not. It was a bit scary. Nepal was different. But then, as I mentioned, I had a kind of a teacher. It was my guru. He was my hero on the camera work. And his name was Piet Koch, and he was very famous for documentary films. And so after working with him almost 6 years, I slowly decided for myself I have to go on my own way. And how to do that. Working with somebody who is traveling around the world, making documentaries for television, how will you start? And so we started with the idea, making films about people who made their explorations in the 19th century with not having a photo camera, not having a mobile phone, not having a film camera, except there's one thing about the Schlagenweit, they started taking pictures even in the middle of the 19th century. There are some photographs in the book. So that was the idea, and Heinrich Barth was in Africa, a famous explorer, and Sibylle Merian, I don't know whether you know these names, but there were a few. So we thought maybe this is a good idea to make about 15, 20 documentaries. Finally, it was just one. It was about the Schlagenweits. But this was maybe the best thing. What happened is that we met Günther Sontheimer in the preparations for this film because we need a door opener for India. And our door opener was Schlagenweit in Germany for the German television. But the other one was, somehow it was Günther Sontheimer, because he welcomed us. Come in my territory, come see my field work. And so we spent there, I think we were there a week or almost. That's the time when
you came.
One evening we were invited in the little house by Günther Sontheimer in those days, and it was very, how to say, there were so interesting people sitting there, and we didn't know anything. We didn't know about Chitre, not about Kolatka, and so on. And they were talking about German and European literature. we both were sitting, my wife and I, we were sitting there. Where are we here? What happens here? We don't know. We did not know anything about your culture. So this was a point. I think we went from there to Kashmir, to Srinagar, and we followed the way of the Schlag and White brothers for this film. And I think he showed us the Dangavadas in those days. And it was the first time that we met wonderful people, the Dangas, and we both were so, we have to come back. And even Sontheimer was watching us and watching me, how my work, how I meet people, how I start conversation with them just by, I couldn't speak Marathi, I still can't speak Marathi today. So, but I think he got the feeling maybe this guy is the right guy for me to make films about my research. And he checked our films later on Schlag and White, and I think he liked it very much. Yeah, and so there was, I can't remember this really properly. Maybe I asked him, can we go on? Is there anything we can do together? But while we did the film on the Schlag and White, he always said the points. He was telling us about Vari, the pilgrimage, and he was telling us about Khanduba cult and all these things.
He was almost inducting you into doing the archival work with him.
And then suddenly I said, okay, we're not making films about explorers anymore. We are making films about nomadic people.
Yeah.
So we went to Heidelberg and we asked him, is it okay? What do you think about the idea of making a film about the Danga shepherds? Yeah, okay, it's okay. So this was the year in 1986. We made a film in Bolivia about nomadic people, and I made a film in Sudan about the Bija nomads, and then India, the Dangas. And I think we met Günther in Pune, and we went together in the Dangavada, and after about 4 or 5 days, he said, no, I have to go back now to Europe. These people trust you, and I trust you too, so please go on. And we did our first film, really Indian film. It was then the journey of the Hatka Dangas. We met them in Nevada, we filmed there, and we showed their daily life there, and then we were on their trip down to the Konkan. And I loved it.
So you traveled with them?
We traveled with them. We had a car. There was a car in the background, with all the equipment, And I think in those days the real love affair started. Even with the Dangas and even with the old surrounding and the people in Pune and so.
And the love affair still continues.
It's still there. It's still there. It's still there. It's still there.
Vijay, would you like to add something to your first meeting with Henning?
Yes, when we met Henning with Günther, it was very, very nice conversation we had. And I felt that he was really interested in knowing. That kind of curiosity you don't see many people in our own surroundings. That we want to know something which, in fact, we don't want to know anything more than our own surroundings. And that was something they are coming from so far, from a altogether different culture. Even the smell, food, everything was different.
Correct.
But still they were very much interested. And that kind of, dedication to know about something and to work with that, and with very human feelings for your subject. That was something I always admired.
But it was a hard time, I have to tell you. When the first days in the car with Günther, and we had his book, and his book was on Khanduba, it was on Biruba, it was on Maskuba. We always said Wunderbar and fell asleep. Wunderbar, Kandoba. And later I said, okay, it's not only Kandoba, it's even Toshiba.
Toshiba, yeah.
Toshiba. And then we were in the car with him, and she said, Marie and I were asking, what is this, what is that? And he always said, it's all in my book. Can you imagine? And these books they're really somehow so complicated if you just entering this territory and this research. It was really, I couldn't understand anything.
But I remember on your next visit, Günther was quite pleased to see how well you have progressed.
Now I have to go back a little bit, because in making documentaries in Germany for German television, you always had to get a good idea. That's the first thing. So the first thing was explorers and painters in the 19th century. The second was the nomadic people. But then, by coming to Maharashtra, coming to the Vadas, and seeing the Vari pilgrimage and all this, I felt somehow at home by making documentaries on one place. I didn't want to do. I made a lot of films in Germany, but this traveling around to explore as a documentary film, or to find wonderful places in the world and bring back some messages about I don't know, music in Latin America or dancing in Malaysia or I don't know what. And so my decision was that's a good place to go on. And Günther Sontheimer, he was very happy because he did all his work. No, you haven't seen that film we showed yesterday.
I have.
No, from the 16 onwards, he always worked with an 8mm camera and with a still camera and all this. He wanted to show it to his students. And until his death, I didn't knew how many roles he has shot. It was more than 6 or 8 hours of 8mm films. So this was a great chance for me. And somehow I settled down because there was another reason. There was people like Dilip and Viju. I mean, we know each other now since 40 years. I think this tells a story.
Yes.
Just by mentioning the time.
Yeah.
Is there any month we don't have a phone call?
You just mentioned 8mm camera, and in your book also you talk about working with analog, which looking at the average age of our audience is rather something different than what we are now used to. Now we click almost 50 images a minute and then we think about framing. So I was wondering if you could like to unpack your creative process of capturing an image or framing an image, working with, as you said, 11 minutes of films and then still finding the correct footage, being able to get those correct moments and capturing them. Yeah. The struggles of it, the process of it.
Process is first having a good idea.
Yeah.
Second is to write down a good script about it. This means you have to make a research. And this is what we have done in Germany. And for India, the research was almost done by Günther Sontheimer. It was just that I had to understand the research. I had to understand his work, to understand what he was telling to his students, and to understand what was his idea making films about it, or what can we make visible. Yeah. So, but the second thing is after research, and research means also go to the places, meet the people, is my way was always to show up as my person and getting in touch, aside from the camera, aside from everything what has to do with the film. It's just often you won't see any picture from me where people where you get the feeling they didn't accept what I do. So it's the curiosity. At the same time, it's the open-minded meet people. Yeah, and
it's also the trust that you
No, he,
build
he
with
never made people
Sorry.
conscious that he is doing something.
Yeah.
They were doing their own things, and that's why they had a faith in him and Günther as well. Because they were not using him, them on something. They wanted to know exactly how they are working, what is their thoughts and all that. And that kind of naturalness you can see in his film and book. And that has people came out and they perform.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who's going there,
Yeah.
taking some pictures, and I'm leaving. And even if this happens, then I remember them, and I hope that they remember me. The funny thing is, when we went to the Dangavada for 4 days ago, they didn't remember me, but the driver Ramdas Atka, who was together, his assistant of Günther Sontheimer, and then always they were talking about Günther, yeah, and they even knew about me. I can tell you, there's a picture in the book where we went to Jisri while the Somati Amavasya festival, and I was up on a balcony with my camera, and suddenly all of them, more than 4,000 people, they was just turning around and looking into my camera, and they were, oh, he's back. No, I thought, but I'm not Günther, I'm not Sontheimer. Yeah, but it was very strange, and this is a fantastic photography in the book. Yeah, this is the only photography where 2,000, 3,000 people was looking into my camera. It was really great. So somehow it was always my idea to make some kind of people should trust in me. The best thing, you're making friends if you go to any place, South America or even in India, especially now in this context of working with Sontheimer.
So you were telling me about that recording that bhajan with very limited tape.
Yeah. This is now another, maybe this is to explain the difference between a mobile phone or a SD card or so. While we did the shooting of Vari, suddenly Sontheimer said, oh, this is a bhajan, you have to record, we have to have this in the film. So it's this wonderful woman, she's singing, her singing is great and everything, and the music and so, but I have only 5 minutes left in my cassette. We had 11 minutes and 120-meter roll. That was all. And I'm very proud about this sequence because everything in this 5 minutes, it's in the film about 1.5 or 2 minutes, but I capture everything what was needed, or was important. And this happens then later quite often because I more and more I knew what was in his books. And it was a pity that we couldn't go on. The moment our last film was ready, he died. It was it's horrible.
We are also now going to open this conversation to the audience. So if you have any questions, any comments, somebody is going to come with a mic to you. You need my mic?
May I just, one more thing, yes. That's for me important. The film, yesterday we showed the film which I have done. It's called A Divine Play on Earth, Sontheimer's Discovery of India. This is a kind of I tried to complete what maybe was his wish to tell the people about his work in India. And I did this film in 2008. Now we have 2024. It's I feel very strange coming with the film, the old film, but the film is still very much up to date. In my mind. Yeah. The second thing is, I had all these footage and all these photographs and all this, and it was all in my computer. So what will you do with this? And so I collected everything, and I started to make a book for my children. Because the idea was that would be great for them if they have a book where they see what I have done 40 years in India. But now it has come here. I had to do this, yeah. Otherwise, if you don't bring these things out of your computer, they get lost. Yeah. And books are here we are at Little Life. Books is the best what you can do. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Henning. My name is Divyani. I run Dizzy, which is a South Asian lifestyle and culture newsletter. My question to you is, as an Indologist, you've also explored the life of Sant Tukaram. That's something that you mentioned, a renowned mystic from Maharashtra. So I wanted to understand your take and what have you learned as an Indologist about this famous mystic poet from Maharashtra?
There's a little misunderstanding. I'm not an Indologist at all. I'm just a curious filmmaker who settled down somehow in Maharashtra. And what I know about Tukaram, I know from Dilip Chitre.
So let me just reframe that question, and let's talk about your association, your friendship with Chitre and Namdev, and your relationship with Tukaram also, and then also your relationship with Bombay.
You talk.
Yeah, Tukaram was a part of Dilip's life, and we were good friends, and so it became also a part of my life. I made a film about Dilip, with Dilip, about his relationship to Tukaram. This is also you can see on Vimeo, on the Vimeo page in the internet. It's a 30-minute film. I told you. No, I have to tell you. After Sontheimer's death and after his funeral, my relationship to India was something was broken totally.
You thought so.
I thought so. But then they started to enter my life again by.
I mean, that was a thing, of course.
See this picture. This is we went down after the funeral. They wanted to bring me to the airport. Mumbai airport. There was heavy rain in an ambassador car. First, they both were sleeping. I was just watching the driver using a string for the wiper. It was really dangerous. It was horrible. And then I was scared, and we started talking, and we talked about Naipaul and what I said in my speech, and so. And then really, Dilip, we said, let's go there. Yeah, there was no mobile, nothing. Yeah. And I said, but it's 6 o'clock. That's enough time. We go there. So we went there. And I really was a bit scared because from Naipaul's book, a huge person, a famous guy, poet, king not, but one of the underworld of Mumbai, which I've never entered before. Yeah. And so we just stayed there for 4 or 5 hours together, and it was like meeting friends from the beginning. It was so nice and so friendly and such a wonderful atmosphere. And so I couldn't speak Marathi, but we could talk. It was beautiful.
No, and he showed you his surroundings, and that's why you got interested.
Not on that night.
No, that day you went not inside, but at least some part.
Some part, yeah, his house and surroundings of his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very different from the rural Maharashtra you have seen.
Yeah, but they were in the back side. They were cooking. They were cooking at the same time. I had to show the film Vari. This all happened within 8 hours. It was really amazing, and so I thought maybe that would be a good idea to make a book on Mumbai. Yeah, on this.
You couldn't get rid of India.
No, and it happened the next year. I think half a year later I was back. And again, and I found a publisher in Munich. It's the book Bombay, Mumbai, in German. It's not existing in English, unfortunately. I did this book, and then I went back into documentaries in Germany, and there was a question came to me about Mumbai because the Zweite Deutsche Fernsehen, ZDF, they knew about my work, and they were asking me they would like to make films of Mexico City, Cairo, and Mumbai. And so I got the contract to make Mumbai, and that was a great work. Yeah. And he showed me really the city of Mumbai, at least Kamatipura.
So let's take one quick question. Yes.
Yeah. Hello, Henning.
The light is very disturbing. These ones. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, hello Henning. My name is Rushikesh. I am a researcher and my work is about Hatkar Dangars. I have been traveling with them as well, and now when you mentioned that you had traveled with them 5 decades back, I am really interested in knowing your experience about that. How did you manage to follow them also in a car? And I come across a lot of...
They put me in the car, together with the sheep.
Also, I come across a lot of stories about conflicts with other local people, like Katkaris in Konkan or other Adivasis. So if you had some experiences of that.
No, I just remember the songs they were singing about the Ramoshis.
Okay.
But we never met the Ramoshis. And I think, I can't remember, I can't remember any conflict situation, maybe? No, I don't know. It was like you travel with your own family. They knew us so well, and the only thing is we were not allowed to have food with them. Because Ramdas, the driver, said always, no, don't eat that because you have to go on working.
Okay.
So, no, this was...
Did you ever try the spice level
Of course. Yeah.
How long was your journey with them?
No, how long is the journey from Fulton? No, from Fulton down to Konkan? I would say it's about 10 days.
10 days.
10 days, but altogether we've been here for more than 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and several times. Yeah, we were collecting the footage, and we several times. And you know, while making the film on the Dangars, we started already making the film of the pilgrimage, because he said, "You have a role for this, you have a role for that." And I said, "What can I do with this role?" Yeah, you come back, and then we make a film on Vari.
Right.
So, and by Vari, he said, "Oh, there's Kandaba affairs. You will have a role? Yeah, we have 2 roles, 3 roles." So it was already when one part of the Kandaba film was taken. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
So we are coming to I think we have last 2 minutes of the session. I just want one quick closing remark from you is, you worked with Günther, you worked with Chitre, you worked with Dasar. 3 very strong individuals with 3 very different way of looking at the world and interpreting the world around them. And a quick remark on how friendship and their work influenced your own work and your own perspective towards your own work, the choices, the way you made about your work.
I think I learned a lot about life, even the hard side of the life in Mumbai. And as I mentioned, this romantic view was somehow not destroyed, but India gave me a very good view what is possible, what can happen, what is going around in the world, from the bottom very down below, but up high. Yeah. And this was it's very still impressing for me. And the background I'm talking about, I'm quite sure it's much more existing here in India than in Germany or in the Western world. Yeah, you know more about your future, past than we. Okay, we too, but the point is, Chitre, Dasal, the Dangars, they're all in the book, and I think, how does this goes together? And
how it affected you as a person, as an artist?
No, I was happy about meeting such wonderful people and making friendship with them. They were my friends, and they gave me a lot. And I always was thinking, how does Namdeo fits in that book, for example? How does this? And then we went one day. We went with him. We went out of the city of Mumbai in his place at the countryside, and he belongs to this countryside. Like he was never a Dangar.
His roots are there.
Yeah. And so it was a great experience for me to see all these roots and listen to the stories about it, and listen to, not only listen to Namdeo, even reading his poems. And this is hard stuff. Yeah. And even when we went together 2 nights, 3 nights to Kamatipura, and I said, I need a shot of the street. And he said, just go upstairs there. I said, oh, never, I don't have. Oh. Hey, yo, go. I remember that really, 4th floor, going up and going down. I will never forget. But they were all friendly people there.
Yeah, they are.
The situation was not so good for me. I was a bit scared. And I think I wouldn't be able to go there alone on my own. So they are the ones who brought me to these places. And they even wanted to make me these books. They wanted me.
Yeah. On that note.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Henning, Savitri, and Vijaya ma'am, for such a nostalgic conversation, so full of stories, and your travel, of course. As we near the conclusion of this year's festival, here are a few highlights to look forward to. At 6 p.m., we have...
Just short.
Sure. Yes.
Something forgotten, which is very important. There's something happened this month. It's very, very important. You should know it. Because this lady, this wonderful lady, will become 85.
Oh!
Yeah. Thank you very much for all that you have given to us, Marie and all the kids and so on.
And the readers of Dilip.
And the readers of Dilip, of course. Thank you.
It was not something about Dilip. What I really came here just to show people that how much he has worked and how much he has done. And Günther. In fact, Günther showed us this. And Vani also. I think Günther has idea first to make a film on Vani.
Of course.
Yeah. And of course we were always there,
But you've been always in the background somehow.
yeah, but that's the way one
Very
should
much.
work.
Well, we are really happy that you agreed to be part of this conversation.
Of course.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here.
I know. It took a lot of convincing. Even in the wings, she was saying, "Nika shala."